Hello again. Before going any further, I would like to remind viewers of one or two facts, according that is to the 2021 census. The first is that black people make up just 4% of the population of the United Kingdom. In other words, 96% of the people in this country are not black. The second point of interest is that more than 9% of the people here are of South Asian ancestry, that is to say from countries such as India, Pakistan and Bangladesh. In other words, there are well over twice as many Asians in Britain as there are black people. Watching the BBC though, you would never realise this. Most dramas set in this country feature black people these days, and in a far greater proportion than just 4%. But one does not see twice as many Asians as black people shown. The BBC are primarily concerned with portraying black people, especially in important roles such as senior police officers, surgeons, judges and so on. It is as though for the BBC, black people are the only ethnic minority in which they are interested. To be fair to the BBC, they are not alone in this obsession with blackness. Watching advertisements shows much the same thing. Count how many Indians one sees in advertisements in Britain and then compare it with the number of black people. Does anybody really think that twice as many Asians are shown in advertisements in this country as black people? This tells us clearly that something peculiar is going on. That this is not merely a matter of trying to show modern Britain as it now is, as a multicultural society. If that were really the case, then 1 person in 10 in the average television series, whether a situation comedy or crime drama, would be Asian, and fewer than 1 in 20 would be black. That would be the correct way of portraying our society as it actually is, but that's not at all what we are shown. The unavoidable conclusion is that the BBC are not really interested in exhibiting British society as it is, but that a false image is presented, one which shows the country as the BBC thinks that it should be. Now, I'm well aware that this sounds almost like a conspiracy theory. I mean, the idea that our national broadcaster is trying deliberately to influence us in this way by projecting propaganda into our homes will strike many people as far-fetched. I understand this, but you see, producers at the BBC make no bones at all about what they are up to, and they speak of this matter with breathtaking candour and have done for years. Consider, if you will, the case of Doctor Who. Steve Moffat, famous for being the showrunner and head writer for Doctor Who, in 2016 said the following, and I'm quoting, and in the description to this video I give a link to the source for this quote. Sometimes the nature of a particular show, historical dramas for instance, makes diversity more of a challenge. But Doctor Who has absolutely nowhere to hide on this. Young people watching have to know that they've a place in the future. That really matters. You have to care profoundly what children's shows in particular say about what we're going to be. And we've kind of got to tell a lie. We'll go back into history and there will be black people where historically there wouldn't have been. And we won't dwell on that. We'll say, to hell with it. This is the imaginary, better version of the world. By believing in it, we'll summon it forth. And outside of the fiction, it's about anyone feeling that they can be involved in this industry as an actor, a director, a writer. It's hugely important, and it's not good when we fail on that. We must do better. Right there we have it. That the aim of historical drama on the BBC should not be accuracy, but rather that the idea is to portray an alternative universe so that those watching these programs are inspired to dream up a new society, one which will be better, according to this ideology, than the monocultural society which actually existed in Britain's past. This can be described as nothing other than propaganda, whether or not you approve of the sentiments displayed. History is being altered to create a mythological version of the past. Of course, the Nazis did this very thing with their imaginary version of German history. You know, the Aryans, the Teutonic Knights and all the rest of it. Most of us, though, feel that this was a bad enterprise, not one we should take as the operating manual for Britain's state broadcasting company. Talking of Doctor Who, of course, a black man now has that role. Do you think that a Chinese person or Sikh were ever in the running? Or that it was already decided that only a black person would do if they were going to have a minority? You see, there are so many minorities in this country, and not just people whose ancestry lies in sub-Saharan Africa. There are Irish people and Jews, Gypsies and Chinese, Hindus and Sikhs, Muslims and Baha'is. None of these people, though, seem to have quite the appeal for the BBC that black people have. In other words, it is not the portrayal of minorities which the BBC wishes to engage in. It is specifically the portrayal of that 4% of the population who are black. This is a gross distortion of reality. Mind, as I've suggested before, there may be an economic factor at work here besides that of the purely ideological motive. Often, television programmes produced in Britain are made with a view to exporting them to the United States, because that's where the big money is. This happens in publishing too, of course, and many publishers in this country are always looking across the Atlantic and trying to encourage authors to angle stuff to America rather than purely British culture. I pander to this myself. When I wrote a book about American military executions called Fighting for America, Executed in Britain, which was published 3 years ago, I was aiming shamelessly at the American market. For this reason, it's possible that people making television programs in this country include black people rather than those from the Indian subcontinent, because they know there are so many black people in America and it will play well there. The BBC's latest drama is called Borders, and the thumbnail to this video shows the characters from it. It's about 5 black teenagers. Does anybody watching this video think for a single moment that the BBC ever considered making a series about, say, 5 Pakistani Muslims or 5 Jews? Or 5 Irish people or 5 Gypsies? We know that they wouldn't do such a thing. The whole of their obsession lies with black people.